This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Brian Peña. I always join the Vito podcast, the best podcast in the United States.
I was trying to get it how I live. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get it, get flat. I got 6 jobs. I don't get it. I don't get it.
And we are still not tired here on episode number 41 of Two Bad Hombres. I am your host, Vito Jerome Shirko, alongside my usual sidekick and partner in crime. That is the Doc from Doc and Jock, John Charles and Matt O'Roon. John, how's it going?
Vito, welcome to the weekend. Looking forward to our conversation. Lots going on in the world, my goodness. Everyone's offended. Everybody's going to Twitter and getting highly upset, whether they're railing about the president, railing about their favorite sports team that's getting eliminated or losing, whether they're highly upset about Harvey Weinstein, whether they're highly upset about Detroit Sports Podcast Network, whether they're highly upset about Barstool Sports. Everybody's upset. But you and I, when we get together to record a podcast, all is great, and I look forward to our conversation. And obviously, I want to talk to you about this website that has made a lot of news, because whenever you start a venture and you work hard, you try your best to make yourself a media company. Barstool Sports has done a lot of chirping in the last 2 years, and it's culminated in a television show that debuted on Tuesday on ESPN2. And with that, they've risen to prominence. And when you have a level of success as an independent website that gets sold to a media conglomerate, then people are going to come at you. They're going to start to look and dig at, what have you said on the internet? What have you said on all these blogs? And people are starting to look at some of the founders of the company, and they've upset a lot of people. But first and foremost, what's your review of Barstool? Do you check it out? Do you find it to be one of those entertainment media companies in line with The Ringer or Deadspin, or a place that you stop at to get some sports information or for some entertainment?
I don't stop there. Never have, really. Now, I can't say I never will. I was about to say I never will. I probably will. And now that ESPN and Barstool Sports are collaborating with the show on ESPN2, I'll probably check it out, see what it's all about more often as we go along with more and more episodes of that Barstool Sports show.
It's on at 1 a.m.
I'm a late night guy. I might be up, or I'll catch it probably on the replay. I bet it'll be replayed numerous times, especially the first few episodes on ESPN2. And wanted to really quick bring up, too, that back in the day, ESPN sent out a cease and desist order to Barstool Sports over their Pardon My Take podcast. And that's because of the familiarity with the names of Pardon the Interruption and First Take. So obviously, Pardon My Take is a play on those two shows and their names. ESPN wasn't liking it back in the day. Nothing ever happened from that cease and desist order. So now, Barstool Sports is gaining even more life through a show on ESPN2, and it sounds like, if I read these things rightly and everything was reported accurately, that FS1 was in talks at one point too with Barstool Sports about developing a late night show, and never formulated, and now ESPN2 is getting one with Barstool Sports.
So Vito, do you give ESPN2 credit for partnering with Barstool Sports, or do you say to yourself, you know what, this might be the beginning of the end of ESPN, because of the fact that, you know what, they're catering to a company that many people say is sexist to women, that is highly offensive, that potentially does things in order to get clicks. But the way I look at it is, this is a successful company. They draw eyes. They have a huge Twitter account. They have huge podcasts. So in essence, what they're trying to do is formulate a media company, make a profitable company. They employ people. They've created a family-like atmosphere. And so here's the thing that people don't realize. They don't care that people are offended. You know what they do? They just write articles about it. They just say, look, our CEO right now is a female. We have hosts on our shows, when they do the tailgate and they go out and they do these live shows on Facebook, their hosts are women as well. So they say, look, we ramp up, things that potentially people get upset about by paying women to potentially, do photo shoots and things like that. They come out and they say, well, how are you guys going to hate on women who are paid handsomely to be part of these ads and they're doing it consensually? They say, look, we're guys, and guys talk about sex. Guys tell jokes. Guys are a little bit offensive, So for me, where I learned this from, simple book. I read a book by Adam Carolla. You know what the title was? It was written 7 years ago. 7 years ago, Adam Carolla wrote a book, and it was called In 50 Years, We'll All Be Chicks. Okay? And you know what the premise of that book was? That there's an attack on masculinity, that guys can't be guys anymore, and that because of liberals, because of the feminist movement, guys can no longer be guys, that they're forced to be, in essence, kind of demasculinized in this culture. And it was a fascinating read. And it didn't take 50 years. It only took 7. Everybody's offended by everything. Everybody is really hostile towards guys being guys, with the whole quote-unquote locker room talk. And so, right now you got, and we'll talk about it later in the podcast, you got Harvey Weinstein, who's made a mockery of himself and abuse of power at the highest level. But what has trickled down from that is guys have to be super careful in terms of what they say, how they say it, and Barstool Sports, they don't care. So, in essence, I'm a little bit jealous in that I have a career, and that part of my vision was not to be like Barstool, but I can't be as fully hardcore as they are. Like, they intend to offend. I try not to. I try to push the boundaries a little bit, like walk up to the line, maybe an inch over it. Barstool, what they do, they have the full vision of whatever's in our mind, we throw it out there. And it's generated a lot of clicks online, a lot of listens to their podcasts, and that's what you have to do, Vito. And that's the secret, is that we have a little bit of filter because of the fact that we have jobs outside of this project. But Barstool, they're 100% committed to Barstool. They're a family. They don't agree with the notion from the outside that they're an offensive organization. But you do understand potentially that some of the things that were said, and we'll play some things that were said about Sam Ponder, that were said about women, potentially can be looked at as slut-shaming, can be looked at as very highly chauvinistic, but they don't care. So it's fascinating that why would ESPN really give them a show? Are they really that desperate for hits to give a half-hour show on a Tuesday night to this group of people? It's fascinating to me because they have numbers. I understand it, but in terms of sometimes you make decisions that sometimes split your company, I feel like there's a lot of chirping going on behind the scenes of all the talent going, why the hell are you advocating for Barstool? They rip us off, 1. 2, they've actually feuded with some of our staff here. They've said some foul-ass things to our staff, and you go and basically reward them. So now what happens is more and more people are going to do it. You know what I'm saying? You're not really limiting them. You're just saying, if you do whatever it takes to get, 10 million hits a month on your website, we'll reward you with a television show. In essence, though, that's America, baby.
It's a cheap way of entertainment, low-hanging fruit, but it works. It leads to hits, it leads to traffic. That's why ESPN's partnering up with Barstool Sports now. But think about it this way, too. If you're an ESPN employee, ESPN just suspended Jemele Hill for 2 weeks for attacking advertisers, which affects ESPN's bottom line. I get that, but still suspended a very highly credible, highly esteemed and respected personality, on-air personality at ESPN and Jemele Hill. And then you're partnering up with Barstool Sports. Chauvinistic, misogynistic, and a place that called Sam Ponder, and you will play the clip for even more comments provided by Barstool Sports founder Dave Portnoy. But he called ESPN Sam Ponder super prude and a slut. Pathetic, and you can't have it, okay?
Let's play the clip that caused a stir. So to set the scene, Sam Ponder put on her Twitter page, welcome to the guys from Barstool Sports. I still remember, in essence, what you guys said about me a few years ago. Now, she had mistaken that she thought that it was the host of the 1 a.m. show that actually said it, but no, it was the president. So she did recant it and say, okay, well, it's still the founder of your company.
Yeah, it makes it look worse, I think.
It does. It makes it look worse, but here are the comments that he made. Obviously, the president, El Presidente, as he goes by on Twitter, he's not fond of Sam Ponder, and he lets it rip. This was, I think, from a couple years ago.
He's stalking that. I mean, fucking anyone can beat the Ponders. I hate the Ponders.
Let's just go on this rant for a second here. There's no one worse right now than Samantha Ponder. She is the absolute worst. I hate follow her on Twitter, so I can't even stand her. Like, every time she tweets, I want to puke all over my computer. Every second that she can tell you that she has a kid and that she's a working mother, she will tell you that she has a kid and she's a working mother. She's fucking bringing her kid to the Grove.
I know for a fact that every day at ESPN, all the suits and all the lawyers, they have their annual, or not annual, their daily 9:15 coffee meeting on how can we fire Sam Ponder without being sued for like discrimination. Because she's the worst. No person who watches game day wants to see a picture of her and her ugly kid. Nobody cares, Sam Ponder. We want to see you sex it up and be slutty and not be some prude fucking jerk who everybody hates and who's married to the worst quarterback who wears the ring and God first and this and that. Shut up. That's not what you're there for. And ESPN just can't find out how to fire you because they hate you. Because everyone who watches you hates you. Because all you do is talk about your little rat kid that nobody wants to hear about.
You little rat kid. I show me one person who likes Sam Ponder. I don't even think Christian Ponder likes Sam Ponder.
He's the most despised person in the world.
And it's under the radar, too, because it's classic 2014. She's a mother. She's a working mother. That tweet she sent out a while ago, like she's, standing up for everyone. So everyone hates her, but no one will say it out loud.
So let's just say that Sam Ponder found it. She had not forgotten what was said in 2014. And obviously, she had a right to bring it up and say, hey, welcome to the family. In the most blunt way possible, but I could see why this could cause a big problem for ESPN in that if you're management, how the hell do you handle that? Because of the fact that you now have an employee basically trying to ruin and throw out there some dirt regarding your relationship with Barstool Sports. It's a messy situation, don't you think?
Absolutely. And you know what? You go back to Clay Travis being the First Amendment absolutist that he is, right? Well, it sounds like Dave Portnoy and these guys at Barstool Sports are that, right? And they want to express their opinions, and they're free to do so. Well, guess what? There are those that also are very religious, such as Christian Ponder and his wife, Sam Ponder. So they have the right to be that way, just as you have the right to say what you did there and what you do. And honestly, at the end of the day, we still, as outsiders looking in, we have the right on Twitter and through other platforms like this podcast here on Bad Hombres, Doc, to criticize what he says and to call it misogynistic and totally unethical and uncalled for as well.
So, Vito, I guess I'll ask you the question because maybe it'll test your morals and we'll see where we stand. Let's say, MLive.com says, you know what, we've had a great quarter. We've done a great job. We've seen, that you're getting about 1.2 million views on Twitter. Your website's taken off. We want to acquire a portion of Detroit Sports Podcast. You can retain control, but we'll make it so that you can make this your full-time thing and you can do whatever, and they'll pay us handsomely. So obviously, we'd keep you around. We'd want you around. But then now, basically, this is our career, and we would have the funds to do whatever we wanted. So with that notion, obviously, like we said beforehand, I wanted to tell a joke that you didn't want to tell. Obviously, I think you were right in not wanting to tell this particular joke that was in my mind. But let's say we were now afforded the opportunity to have a plethora of funds, and this was your gig. Would you go down this road of acting like Barstool where whatever was in my head actually came out? Because there is a little bit of filter that's in my mind. I don't spew out every little thing that I think or tell every joke that I want to tell because of the fact that I'm a psychologist. I have a practice. I do have young girls in my family. I am a church-going individual. But there are some things I'd say not to the fullest extent like Barstool, but let's say I went that route and I had the opportunity to go down that road. Would you go down that road with me?
I probably would not.
Oh!
Well, I'll say this much. Now, Dave Portnoy said to sex it up to Sam Ponder. Well, nobody would be asking me that to start off, but I wouldn't be doing so either. But these females having to deal with that kind of crap on Twitter and from people spewing out this just ludicrous stuff via podcasts and other audio platforms, it's just horrendous. It's too much for these women to deal with, and I really feel for them, and it's not right. It's uncalled for. It's unethical once again. And I get why you might want to start doing it when you know you have no filter and you're making millions of dollars because you have no filter with your comments, your commentary, let's say. But I wouldn't go down that same path with you. I just wouldn't. I guess I stand.
Oh, you're gay.
More. And I'm not. I can, you know what? And the point is, too, there are guys that think Sam Ponder's good looking. You can think that. And, you know.
You're not that much of a loser, are you?
I don't think so. I'm not trying to be Howard. But, yeah, I find some women good looking. I do. There are sexy women and men out there. But I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to make it my brand. That's not my brand here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. It wouldn't be for M Live, and I wouldn't do it for Barstool Sports either. Even if I got an offer, this is hard to say right now for me not making anything. I'm making pennies here at the DSP Network. But if I got an offer of $1 million, upwards of $1 million from Barstool Sports to really say whatever and have that kind of commentary where I'm calling women out and calling them sexy and prudes, I wouldn't do because that's not me. It's not what I stand for. That's not my brand. That's not the career and brand that I'm trying to build here. So I like to have fun, and I like to try to be comedic, right? I mean, we saw what we did with that parody video last week, but that's what I want to do with my fun and comedy. It's not calling women sluts or prudes. That's uncalled for. And a woman like Sam Ponder and any woman out there, let's just say that in totality, any woman in totality does not deserve that kind of stuff being said about them.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Barstool, they push the edge.
Well, you know what? Let me ask you now. If you were offered $1 million to voice that kind of stuff, to have that kind of commentary, could you see yourself giving in and taking the $1 million offer to be that kind of personality at Barstool Sports?
No, I wouldn't treat women that way, but I definitely probably would hire some models or do some things like they do, photo shoots.
Well, you could. I don't find anything wrong. I mean, okay, I don't know if that's degrading women. Is that degrading women? I don't think it is.
Nope.
You know they're good looking. You know that sells. What is that? Sex sells. It does. That's what Barstool Sports is trying to promote. But now, guess what? They might have to tail some of that, reel some of that in, and take some of that back, take it down a notch because of the fact that they are partnering up with ESPN too, and it's going to be something to see if they're going to really promote that kind of act.
Do you think the partnership will last?
I don't think so long term because of all the backlash.
I don't think so either because it was revealed. People were questioning the head of ESPN. At this point in time, ESPN controls the content. They have final say over what's aired on the Barstool Sports show. So they did not give full control over to Barstool. They do have editorial control. If there's something that they don't want aired, they can potentially say, no, cut it out. So ESPN will work with Barstool, and Barstool will work to put on a funny show. Despite the editorial restrictions and things like that, they want to put on a funny show. For me, I wouldn't do that. I'd want to continue to create my own thing. I don't want input from nobody. I would say that the best part of this project has been the fact that we just do whatever we want. And
now the thing is, though, so they're commercializing, they're selling out, right? They're selling out is what it's termed as. But, okay, would we do the same thing if we were offered a good chunk of money? We would. So we would be selling out, but that's like a part of business, right? That's like a business model.
But the part that probably we would not get in trouble is we would not be having all this discussion regarding us being chauvinistic, misogynistic. I don't think that there would be audio coming out of us disrespecting women. I feel like that would probably be our line, would be that. What do you think about that contract that was out, that was given to another reporter that she aired? And in it was reported that the Barstool company has a clause that had asked women to sign saying that they would not be offended or sue if jokes were told in the sexual nature regarding animals, women, life, stuff like that. Did you think that was appropriate, or do you feel like that when you try and hedge your bet like that, or when you try to legislate or try to control people's behavior, that potentially you open the door, maybe not by implicitly allowing sexual harassment, but you potentially open the door when you say, well, look, all these women signed this contract that says we can joke around. Now we have a little bit more freedom to be, walking up to that line of like sexual harassment. Not fully.
But you can't sexually harass anybody. It can't even get to borderline sexual harassment. Now you can joke around, have like some jokes that, show that your mind's in the gutter, right?
Yeah.
But they can't be degrading. They can't be too vulgar. Okay, and then if I'm a woman, I'm not going to sign up for that then. If I find out they're too vulgar, if they're going to be degrading of me and other women, and if they're chauvinistic, I kept saying chauvinistic. Chauvinistic is the word there, and you were saying it, and that's true. I don't want anything to be chauvinistic. I'm not like that. I don't apply that in my career here. I don't, think that's part of my brand. I don't try to portray that as being part of my brand or pretend that's a part of my brand. And you know what? If I'm a woman and seeing that's a part of Barstool Sports' brand, I probably wouldn't sign up for it. Because, if they're putting that in the contract, they're going to approach the line then. And that line, when it's even approached slightly, might be too much for you to take. And then you're not going to last with a company like that anyways. But at least they do make it known. But it sounds like to me, it might be a little bit too much, and a little bit too much for a lot of women to take. Barstool Sports, that is, and the kind of humor that they portray.
So what is the Vito brand?
The Vito brand is not one of them being, I said, chauvinistic. I guess I have respect for all. It's about equality. I like women, I like men. Everybody should have respect for all kinds. But my brand is, I want to be comedic, and I'm sarcastic. I like sarcastic humor. I would like to build a brand of that even more and feature that even further through this platform I have at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, through this podcast and other episodes and work that I do for the DSP Network. So that's kind of my brand, being a sports-minded guy and showing off that, but also bringing in a mixture, a little sprinkle of pop culture here and there and showing off some humor. I would like to showcase that through this podcast platform, Doc.
The Vito brand. Before we take our first time out, in the second half of the podcast, we're going to address the whole controversy regarding Harvey Weinstein and the mess that he created for himself. And thinking about who watches and likes Barstool Sports, they got a huge following.
They do, though.
So there's an audience for it.
Yep.
Do you feel like it's more disrespectful that there's a huge audience that supports and loves Barstool Sports? Or do you find it a little bit abhorrent that there's actually an outlet for these people to, enjoy sports and entertainment via that platform? Because for me, I'm like, Barstool is just tapping into what they know is out there.
Yeah.
They recognize the market. They recognize that by pushing the limits, by putting out content like this, what you call low-hanging fruit, that people like it, that people will click through, people will listen. You had, I believe, in 2016 or 2017, during the Super Bowl press conference, you had an athlete, a former punter, be like, I'm out, deuces, I'm going to go contribute to Barstool Sports. And
Yeah.
he made news. So this is an organization that people want to be a part of. And one notion, though, like I said, I don't want to just portray them as negative. One thing that the owner has said, El Presidente, is we're a family. We respect everybody here. And the reason why we're succeeding is you know what we are. And if you don't like it, don't click on it.
Well, get the hell out. Don't watch us then. Don't read our
watch us.
stuff. And that's true. That's like with anything. If we don't like it, why are we going to keep clicking on it? Well, that's that hate clicking, right? It's that kind of stuff, too, that people do end up doing.
But at the same time, I feel like that's how you do succeed, is that you build an organization, you surround yourself with quality people, you go out and you fulfill your mission. And that's the mission they decided to go down. Is it for everybody? No. Can everybody go and actually execute that? No. I feel like they definitely deserve credit in terms of building a media outlet that got sold to another outlet, and they're doing work. They built a brand. That's what you try to do when you have a project and you have a vision. And he said, too, I built this brick by brick. El Presidente, Dave Portnoy, said, the reason why I'm successful, and he laid it out. I outblogged everybody on the internet. I built this brick by brick. I supported people. I built a family atmosphere, and I outworked everybody. And this is why we're successful. And I give him a lot of credit, because that's what everybody really that starts an entity, that's what they want. But for us and for me, I definitely would have a little bit of reservation in terms of going 100 miles an hour like they do. I would probably be in the 85 mile an hour lane and just take it a little bit lighter, stay away from such controversy. I just want all love. I don't like controversy. I don't know, but he said it himself. He actually has a self-awareness to say, I love the controversy. I love to get in the pit. I love to get into the mud. I can't seem to avoid it. Maybe for the greater good of Barstool, to even go to the next level, maybe to overcome Fox Sports 1 or overcome ESPN, maybe I need to step back and not be so much the face of the negativity of this company. And that's really smart. I feel like it's in his best interest, if I was to give him advice, to go behind the scenes, stop being this out front personality, and potentially, if you want to make the goal to continue this kind of content, you could have the Barstool Sports Network. You could have Barstool Sports Radio Network. You could have your own Sirius channel. You can potentially start your own television channel where you have former athletes and you broadcast 24 hours. This could, when you generate these numbers, Vito, we're not talking about like a rinky-dink mlive.com type thing.
Rinky-dink mlive.com type of thing.
Yeah.
We have a lot of friends from MLive.
We do.
We are offending Aaron McMahon.
But guess what? Guess what, though, Vito? I don't know if you heard, they're not covering the Pistons and the Wings on the road this year. They're scaling back.
They're scaling back,
and,
because of a lack of hits there. Where Barstool Sports doesn't have to worry about that.
Right. MLive is great.
Yeah,
but let's say of the big three, you're not at MLive.
No.
So I want to say that you have to give credit to somebody and an entity that's we're not talking about thousands of hits.
No, much more than that. You're right.
We're not talking about hundreds of thousands of hits. We're talking about 10 million views more a month across podcast, video, platform. You're doing it. Vito, they do a tailgate that tours the country.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about some rinky-dink operation. There's some money behind it. So you got to give credit where credit's due. You may not be a fan of their content, but as a content provider like we are, I'm floored and jealous and in love with the model of somebody taking a project and going to those extremes. And Vito has every right to say to himself, you know what? Yeah, it's just not what I would do. I would brush up against it. If Barstool hired me, I'd do it, but not so much in terms of maybe being the out front personality. I'd be more behind the scenes producing some of the web shows.
You're saying you're not pretty enough to put on camera anyways?
No, I'm not.
See, I would love to be on camera, okay? But I like Pardon My Take. I can't say I like it, but from what I've heard about it, 'cause I haven't actually ever even listened to Pardon My Take, but I know they have big name guests on, big name athletes, and guess what? They mix in sports and entertainment, and they're really not, I don't think they don't push the boundaries as much. I don't believe they do with the misogynistic kind of talk. They're not really like that. They're not too sexist or sexist at all. And I don't know completely what they talk about each and every single show they do, but I've heard Pardon My Take is very funny, and they have that sarcastic kind of humor. So I got to give them that because I'm that type of guy. I would like to build that kind of brand without all the sexist takes.
Before we go to break, all we got to say is Jim Harbaugh. We've reached out to Mr. Harbaugh a couple times, but I think they know that I'm a state supporter. But at the very least, he's never returned my phone call. But when Pardon My Take showed up and rolled in, they walked right into the locker room, and Jim Harbaugh was right there willing to represent Barstool Sports. So
Barstool Sports can take in anybody, get any big name right now. They attract a certain demographic, and guess what? They started from the ground up, like you said, and they know how to attack that demographic and to reel in the listeners and the viewers. So you got to give them credit for that because they have a great business model. It's just they approach and go over the line a little bit too much. And for my liking most of the time from what I've read, even though I'm not an avid consumer, so I barely even know about their brand, their content model. I just hear about stuff. And from what I've seen, a little bit too, misogynistic and approaching that sexist line and crossing it in the past. And you would hope and think that this new ESPN2 show will not feature that.
Right. Quick question.
How old were you when you lost your virginity?
I'm still trying to search for that answer, Howard. Thanks for that great question, though. By the way, I love Howard Stern, so I guess it makes me sound like a hypocrite, because I do like some of his stuff. But I don't get into as much the stuff that he's done in the past with women and half-nude women, strippers and porn stars. I've never really gotten into that as much, that kind of entertainment provided by Howard Stern and the Howard Stern Show. But I do love his full-length, interviews. I love his interviewing style. He's very good at that, and I think he features that more and more now. There is a show now that we're trying to talk about Howard Stern now and trying to change course totally. But I do get into those shows, those podcasts, those talk shows that really know how to interview a subject. And Barstool Sports knows how to mix it up with that Pardon My Take. Features great guests, I think, every single episode they do, and you got to give them credit for that. And how they make it fun. Their interviewing style is fun, and it's almost like a page out of the playbook of a guy such as Howard Stern, it seems like. And those two entities, Howard Stern, his brand, his show, and Barstool Sports, and Pardon My Take specifically, are very successful because of that. They know their audience, and they know how to attract and bring in that audience fully, and they do so very effectively, Doc.
All right, quick timeout. We'll come back. We got to discuss Harvey Weinstein. All the rage on Twitter, all the, everybody, every pundit in the world is looking at what the hell's going on in Hollywood. How the hell was Mr. Weinstein allowed to portray and carry this shit out for the better part of the last 20 years? We'll talk about it next.
And as you know, Doc, Top Kit Sales is a proud sponsor of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. And Top Kit Sales, if you're looking for team apparel for your high school, your club sports team, or your corporation, then look no further than Top Kit Sales, located on the east side of Main Street in downtown Royal Oak, between 11 and 12 Mile. Their founder and former University of Michigan quarterback John Wangler's leadership, Top Kit Sales has developed a tradition of selling and distributing custom Adidas team apparel, or the very highest quality and the very best service. So get your organization, your school, or your club team all in with Adidas today by emailing sales@topcatteamsales.com. Once again, the email address is sales@topcatteamsales.com. And remember to follow Top Cat Sales on Twitter @TeamTopCat.
And Vito, I definitely want to thank you for your work during the Top Cat Sales High School Coach of the Week poll. Great concept, great idea. Each and every week, you can go to our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com, and vote for your favorite high school Coach of the Week. And thank you to Top Cat Sales for sponsoring it. Monday through Thursday, you can vote for your favorite high school football Coach of the Week via Top Cat Sales. Thank you so much.
Scott Merchant from Chippewa Valley High School won the 5th Top Cat Sales Football Coach of the Week of the 2017 season, and the 4th Top Cat Sales Football Coach of the Week was for my alma mater, Mike Giannoni. So great results so far with that Top Cat Sales Football Coach of the Week poll hosted on DetroitSportsPodcast.com and sponsored by the DSP Network.
Yeah, we coming now. Come on. Yeah. That's right.
And back here on Two Bad Hombres, it is episode number 41 of the podcast, Doc, and Harvey Weinstein. Now, we have to discuss him heavily here and the controversy and the fallout from it as well. It has rocked Hollywood, hasn't it, Doc?
And the theme of this week's podcast obviously is going to be about power, control, and influence. Barstool has taken it and made themselves a multimedia company and has faced some scrutiny. On the other spectrum is what tends to happen if power is run amok. And as a psychologist, I'm fascinated with Harvey Weinstein and what's happened in Hollywood. But first and foremost, I think that the investigation as to how it's gone down is the proper one. How was this allowed to take place for the better part of almost 20 years? And, you know, for those that don't know, Harvey Weinstein in the last couple of weeks has been outed as a sexual predator, as an individual that has assaulted women, that has, you know, made lewd acts in front of women, that has used his influence as a major head of a studio, the Weinstein Company, to abuse women. And it's been one of those situations where this is something that has been investigated. It's being talked about 24/7. Each and every day that goes by, there's a new allegation of some stuff that he did. Did you read the story about, I mean, when I sent it to Adam, we were dying like, how did this go down? Did you hear the story about how he pulled this woman, you know, into the kitchen of a restaurant and exposed himself, relieved himself, and finished into a potted plant? And then the next day, after he like mortified this young lady, he called her and said, "Thank you, I had a good time."
I didn't hear about that.
No, what he did was he saw this young lady. He found her to be attractive, and he took her to a kitchen, and there was nobody there. So she's like, "What's going on here?" So he made an advance towards her, and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? No, I have a boyfriend." So he's like, "Fine, just shut up and stand there." Drops his pants and relieves himself, sexually into a plant. Finishes, takes care of his business, is smiling, looking at the girl. She's just standing there like, "You're looking at me now." Like,
yeah.
You're like,
what's going on here?
What's going on here?
Yeah.
So he has no awareness that this is mortifying to somebody else. So then, like, she's like frozen, shocked that this individual would do this. So then, walks her out and like nothing happened. Then the next day, calls her up or shoots her a message and is like, "You know what? I had a great time the other night."
Had a great time?
Yeah.
With who? She didn't have a great... She wasn't even participating in the act. She didn't want any part of the act.
He asked her out again after he did all this. He asked her out and she was like...
He's a big dummy, man.
Vito, that's the part I want to discuss with you, is that from my perspective, I don't think he's dumb. I think he's severely mentally ill.
He's a mental little person is what he is. Man, I don't know about mentally ill, but there are some tendencies maybe.
Now people will say, well, what disorder would you give him, Doc? Just from viewing kind of the length of time this has happened and what is going on in his mind, this isn't a disorder. This is a personality disorder.
Yeah.
Probably a narcissistic personality disorder or bordering on antisocial personality disorder with at least some sex addiction going on.
Yep.
This is somebody who over time doesn't recognize that, his actions are causing people harm. He's so selfish. He's an individual that, puts his own needs, his own sexual needs ahead of everybody else. And he was allowed to carry this out because of a couple factors. One, he was the major head of a studio that controlled Hollywood's lives. And many people the sick part to me when I heard about this story was people were making jokes. A lot of people have referenced this in, passive-aggressive jokes or things like that. Seth MacFarlane, a couple of years back when they were announcing some awards nominations, he came out and said, "Oh, congratulations, you ladies now don't have to pretend like you like Harvey Weinstein." And people were like, "Wait a minute, we heard you say this comment a few years ago." He said, "Yeah, I said it out of spite because a friend of mine had come across Harvey." And if you look at it, you heard the comments, people made references about Harvey Weinstein for years. So for me, it leads me to believe, how was this allowed to go on for so long? Why was it that information was relayed to the New York police and they don't investigate? Why was it that, this individual was allowed to really greatly affect so many lives? And when you start to dig into some of the answers, money, influence, he was able to use his power and influence for negative. And I just find that to be repulsive in that in this country, if you allow people who have influence and power to take advantage of people and to subvert the laws, to really run amok. I mean, Vito, this wasn't just one person. This just wasn't one story of him, taking advantage of one girl. This is dozens of young ladies, dozens of actresses that have come out against Harvey Weinstein. And it's just really sad that this was allowed to take place for this length of time. I'm just shocked and floored by it all the way around. And I'm fascinated to see if he's going to be now prosecuted for past stuff that's happened that he potentially has committed.
He co-founded with his brother Miramax. He was recently fired because of all these acts and alleged assaults and harassments by his company's board of directors, expelled from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, and all this rightfully so, and why not sooner? And you always try to figure out why people didn't come out with these allegations sooner. But these women are scared, because guess what? What's sad and true in today's society, even in today's day and age in 2017, he's a man. And these women are afraid of coming out against a powerful man who had a large control and pull of Hollywood because of his past and all of his affluence and success. And all of that curtailed these women from coming out earlier. And luckily, they have finally found the courage to come out and to come out with these accusations and to get this man, Harvey Weinstein, in trouble and causing him to lose his power, his pull, all of these roles and jobs. He no longer will be able to do what he has done in the past, harassing all these women. And it's a good thing that Hollywood finally has
acknowledged that this has happened.
Has finally attacked him.
Yes.
Has finally gotten out in front of this after too long and attacked him. And is causing him to no longer have the power and stature that he did in Hollywood at one point. And the thing is now, what other people have come out and said in response to all of this, of all these allegations regarding Harvey Weinstein, is that why hasn't Bill Cosby now been fired or expelled from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences? Weinstein was a guy accused of all this sexual assault, sexual harassment. Why not Bill Cosby?
Well,
he should be the next straw right to fall, the guy that should be next to be
Vito,
expelled from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences.
Vito, you are a journalist, and at this point in time, the step was taken by these women to charge Bill Cosby, and he was found not guilty. Or it was a hung jury. I forget which one it was. But
so many women coming out, some of it was true, and he got out of really everything unscathed. He did, okay, as you said. But the thing is, he's a dirty individual. He knows what he's done in the past. Why can't he be expelled too?
Exactly. Well, he has a leg to stand on in that he was never criminally charged, and he is still going with the notion that he did not commit any of these. So that's
any of these hundreds of accusations. Well, you did something, buddy. Okay,
but always
can't hide.
I know, Vito, but here's the mitigating factor that makes this super challenging. Okay, now obviously we never ever disrespect victims or people that are willing to come out and share their story. But unfortunately, there are a couple stories that are super high profile that have kind of put a lot of people on edge when discussing sexual assault, and that's the whole Duke lacrosse rape situation. That story has really put a damper and put some challenges regarding charging people and looking at the situation because, the media tried these young kids and made them, portrayed them as guilty, portrayed them as violent, vicious criminals. And a major newspaper publication or a major magazine came out and did an expose on the young lady, and they went full bore with it. Oops, only to have it kind of discovered that, factually speaking, there's no evidence. There's no real evidence this happened, and they, I believe it was Rolling Stone, had to recant the story. They had to come back and say, no, the stuff that we put out there is totally wrong.
So the girl made it up, right?
Completely.
So those guys were found not guilty. Okay, so rightfully so, but the thing is, one woman making up a story, or anybody, those people that make up those stories of sexual assault.
It happens.
It happens, okay? And that shouldn't ruin the credibility of others that come out and say that they were sexually assaulted or raped.
Right.
So it shouldn't ruin their reputation.
Right. So, in essence, though, we have to, with Bill Cosby, go with...
But give him the benefit of the doubt? Come on, no. You can't give him the benefit of the doubt. We know he did something criminally where he abused or raped women, and more than one woman, too.
Bill Cosby is a situation all to himself. But with Harvey Weinstein, the situation that's disgusting is the cover-up.
Yep.
The fact that he was able to avoid prosecution. There are people are looking like, in New York, there was... I don't know if you heard the videotape where an Italian model audio taped him like begging for her to watch him in the shower, and it was like, please, just please, and it was just like over and over and over, and you heard the desperation, and you're like, on the tape he revealed that it seemed like it was more common than we were all led on to believe. Like, oh yeah, I do this every day, babe, come on, what's wrong with you? Let's get to business here. So you look at it, and when a system fails like this, Hollywood's got to take a serious look at itself, because this is something that is just more than an individual who's perverted. This is about really systemic allowance of sexual assault and disrespect towards women. That's a huge problem, because it's not just Harvey Weinstein.
No, it's a Hollywood-centric
right?
thing.
We all joke around sometimes, but if you think about it, it's kind of gross, the whole casting couch thing. People joke around that, how do you get a job in Hollywood? Well, just service the director, and you probably will get a good part.
And now it probably happens, truthfully, too often. And you know what? Ben Affleck condemned Harvey Weinstein, and something else comes out about him regarding kind of groping Hillary Burton, the former host of TRL and MTV, who went on to have some stardom with One Tree Hill, a show that I sadly watch because that's a chick show. Mm-hmm. But Hillary Burton, anyways, was groped by Ben Affleck. This just came out, really hit the surface, and big time recently, and now Ben Affleck's looking bad. So all these different actors, directors, men and women, there's going to be more and more coming out about all of them, and more people will be condemned for their actions coming up very soon here, Doc.
And for Harvey Weinstein, too, it just seems like if you were doing damage control, this is probably not the way to do it. I feel like going to therapy is fine, but potentially speaking, maybe you could have got out ahead of this and just been like, I'm sick, I'm ill, I'm an individual that, come out and acknowledge what he did. But I mean, I think once the shit hit the fan, he realized, oh boy, this is going to be a huge situation, and I think you go into panic mode. Are you surprised a little bit that he didn't go to like France, like Roman Polanski, like to try and, because France doesn't have any extradition rules with the United States. He could go to France now. He's not under any investigation. He could basically flee and not come back ever again. Are you surprised that he's sticking with this and going to therapy and going to Arizona to correct his quote unquote issues? Are you surprised?
Well, you know what?
That?
He would have looked like a coward even more if he would have just fled to France, somewhere like that, where he could have still been highly popular and nothing. Well, the thing is, with social media, stuff still would have been said about him in these acts. He couldn't have gone unscathed completely. So maybe legally, right, or criminally, he gets away and can live a nice life still. But the thing is, you still have to live with that.
But do you think he goes to
talk
jail?
about it the rest of your life. And I think he deserves to go to jail. I think he will be criminally prosecuted, and I think he will go to jail, and rightfully so. And for a long, long time, I hope he's locked up, because this man not only is sick, but he's a bad man, a guy that doesn't deserve a second chance, and he's in a huge pile of doggy doo-doo, isn't he? And he's not going to get from under this. He's not going to come out on top, victorious, and look like nothing happened. He knows what he did. People know what he did. All these women coming out now prove that he committed some criminal acts and some stuff that he will never live down, and rightfully so, and he will have to live with the repercussions, hopefully, for a long, long time behind bars, Doc, too.
Yeah, it's a sick situation going on right now. You look at it and you say to yourself, how do we stop this? Treat women with respect. If you know or hear of stuff like this going down, tell somebody, tell the authorities, chirp. Don't just keep this to yourself. Don't let this go on for years, because, then
it becomes systemic. It does, like you said, Doc.
Yeah, this cannot happen again. And hopefully Hollywood definitely does a situation where they do investigate this and they figure out how the heck did we allow this to happen, because people knew. That's the sick, gross part about this. People knew, and you always hope that in this day and age with 24/7 media, with Twitter, with Instagram, with all the access to the police, I mean, I just hope that if people know that they don't just sit on it, that you put your career in the back burner ahead of people's lives and their psychological well-being. And I know that it's hard sometimes, but if your goal is to be an actress or an actor and you face a studio head that does this, don't be an actress. It's not worth it. If you think that's the avenue, that's the only avenue you're facing, no, report that individual, go tell, and stop this from happening. And if you feel like it's something you can't handle, don't do it. It's not worth it to be rich and famous and be part of the movies in order to face sexual harassment. It's not worth it at all.
But it's easy for us to say it once again. Like we talked about earlier in the podcast before the commercial break about Barstool Sports, that they offered us all that money to have that kind of commentary. For these women, they might never get a second shot. That might be their break, their huge Hollywood break. Will they ever get it again? And they have to wonder that. And it's sad really quick. Here's a note I wanted to talk to you guys all about really, really quick. It's sad that a man can still hang over a woman's head that he's a man and have that power over her just because he's a man in modern day society in 2017 when there should be full on equality.
So there is a notion, though, we do got to talk about too, is that some women took money from Harvey Weinstein and signed NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, in order not to talk about this. So
yeah, he paid them off, which is sad. It looks even worse for that guy too, by the way, in Hollywood.
How do you feel about that, about women that take money from an individual and stay hush about it? Isn't that kind of part of the problem too? Is that if you do something like look, if you do something to me and I'm offended or I'm hurt by it or you psychologically harm me, and you say, Doc, look, I'm sorry. Here's $250,000. Don't tell what I did here at the office that was inappropriate. I'm like, no, dude, don't do that.
You should not take the money. It's bribery.
Exactly. I don't believe in that. Just for me, it's hard to say, that it's hard for me to take that money knowing that potentially this guy's out there doing that. I'd say, look, Vito, I demand you get help. I demand that you do stuff. Keep your money, donate it to charity. Maybe I take it and donate it to charity. I'd say do this, but I wouldn't take the money and stay quiet about it, because then I'd know that you're out there doing that potentially in another podcast office. I'd be like, dude, gross, put that away.
But you know what? I don't know if we can tell these victims of sexual abuse how to handle themselves after.
That's just my opinion.
Being victims. I get your point, because I said it myself. You really should not be taking bribes from anybody to hide something, to cover up somebody's criminal act.
See, that's a tough thing. It's not worth it for me. That's what I'm saying, is that for me, I do have that about me, is that I would not take any amount of money. If you assault me or anybody in my family, we're not taking any amount of money. We're going to get you criminally prosecuted or force you to get help that's forced by law, that you got to be monitored.
But you're in a different industry, too. You're a psychologist. There are no worries about you getting a second chance or a break. These women have to worry about getting a big break in Hollywood. After Harvey Weinstein, he had so much affluence, so much influence over these women, over Hollywood, that he kind of controlled some things, and he could have hurt your name, right? He could have done that to your name, dirtied your name so much that you would have never gotten a second chance to succeed in Hollywood. And if that's your passion and your livelihood, how can you tell a woman or man that is a victim of sexual abuse not to participate in this cover-up? When we know it's morally, ethically wrong, we get it, and probably even those women and men knew that, okay, in the back of their heads. But the thing is, in that moment, what do you do when you know you might never get a second chance in Hollywood because of Harvey Weinstein dirtying your name if you don't take this money to hush up?
Exactly. It's a messed up situation all around. I'm glad that it came to the forefront, and I'm glad that these women are going to get their justice, hopefully, if he is prosecuted, and we'll see how this plays out. At first, I did think he was going to be suicidal. The police did respond to a suicidal call at his apartment or so, but he's now getting the help, quote unquote, that he needs to deal with stuff like this. He has been let go by his own company, and you hope that he does resolve this for his life so they can go forward. But I'm glad that this is going to be looked at, because I do think now, in 2017, the notion of how you treat women is being looked at, and it's super hard to disrespect women, because women are there, they're standing up for themselves, they're unifying, so it's not worth it. It's really quite difficult even to do, because I don't know, for me, because I have a wife, two daughters, it's just hard to disrespect women, so it's really challenging.
Women are empowered now more and more because they're at the forefront of industries and companies.
Yeah.
And they have equal rights, and they should, and they have the right to come out and say what they do about these men, attacking them, about them sexually abusing them. And you know what? I just hope that as a result of this, more and more things are made known, are made public about these men and women that have committed acts of sexual abuse. I hope these men's and women's names come out to the forefront and that they're exposed for what they truly stand for and who they truly are as human beings and for being, well, sick human beings for committing such acts.
Fascinating podcast, Vito. Thank you for taking a serious look at some of these issues about Barstool Sports and Harvey Weinstein. Good podcast, 41 down. I look forward to hopefully several more hanging out with you doing this podcast. Hopefully you have a great weekend.
Let's keep doing it, trucking along, and being not tired on every single episode of Two Bad Hombres. Doc, thank you, and thanks to all of you guys for tuning in for another fine and fresh edition of the podcast. Adios.
Head spin, get it, get fly. I got 6 jobs. Oh, yeah.